inside in order for us to start for the second part of this Aviation Event 2023 Cluj conference. You may be seated. I know that it's very nice to be networking and having coffee and discussing, but now it's time to proceed with the second part of our conference. So thank you. Okay, more people are coming in, Electra, so we are waiting. No, of course, sure. And I think we can, Electra, I think we can start, and then people will be coming in. So this is the time for our first panel. The topic is a very interesting one: challenges for European aviation, green prospects, operational resilience, and disruptions. I'm very glad that this panel is being moderated by a Greek young woman. I can tell you that she is one of the most dynamic and competent aviation-focused journalists in Greece. So Electra Levriti, Electra, will you please come? Journalist, Air News, thank you. And I would also like to call on stage our panelists, Mr. Kostin Iordake, CEO, Tarom, Mr. Samil Karakas, SVP Regional Flights, Turkish Airlines, Anadolu Jet. I think we're waiting for Samil to come in, correct? And Mr. Owen Kelly, Sustainability Advisor, SITA, okay. And I think I will go and get Samil. He's out there, isn't he? So, okay. We are waiting for one more, Electra, and I think we can start. Okay. So Samil is right there. A big applause for Samil. He has just returned to the hall. Okay, great. So Samil, we were waiting for you. No problem, not at all, not at all.
So, I would like to welcome you at Aviation-Event 2023, and I should start with Mr. Kostin Iordake, CEO of Tarom.
Welcome, nice to be here. I have to say, it is the first time I'm here in Cluj to this event, and it's a very nice event. Thanks for the organizers, and thanks for everybody for inviting me here.
So we will talk today about the challenges for European aviation, the green prospects, the operational resilience, and the disruptions. Which are the main challenges for European aviation?
For the European aviation, one of the biggest challenges that is coming in front of us, it's the sustainability effort that all the aviation companies in Europe has to do it in order to become more greener. And they need to invest significant in improving or to reduce the carbon print on their flights. And this is a challenge that imposed additional investments, changes of the approach how they do the market in terms of commercial strategy, and also the push that will affect it's a different approach from what the consumer has been related, knowing that airlines or the flights are cheap, and in this way they're considering as an alternative for the normal traffic. These kind of challenges will have to reshape the model of how the European aviation will operate in the interior of Europe. We are talking mainly on the flights that it's happening today in Europe, meaning short and medium flights, not on the long haul. I don't see a very high challenge. So for the companies who are depending on the long haul, this will be not so significant affecting like the companies who are very depending on the short and medium flights.
What about the environmental footprint and SAF, SAF?
On the SAF, still we hear it's a combination on effort that is coming together with the airport, who has to put together to have the infrastructure for SAF. Still the cost of the SAF, it's higher than the normal jet, and this affects the pricing because still the market, and I'm talking here mainly on the local market, on the Eastern European market, very sensitive on the price. So the investment, the price increase that is coming from the using of the SAF, as everybody knows, the fuel is an important price, cost structure in the price, in the building a price of a flight. So in this situation, still, if adoption of this will come, I see that it will come with a higher price. And obviously here the efficiency and the competitiveness of every airlines will be a differential, but it will be a challenge for most of the operators in Europe.
And how TAROM is trying to face these challenges?
For TAROM, for us, we have a short-term challenges and the long-term challenges, and I have to say. Our short-term challenges is today our restructuring program that we have to deliver. We are planning to become an efficient company in terms of our P&L results, and I'm talking here on the P&L. We build our position to sustain the Romanian market, meaning regional flights, local flights, and to sustain the Romanian citizen connecting with the biggest airports in Europe, and with our partners from SkyTeam or additional partners like Turkish Airlines or the other who are coming. But in front, our short-term trend to become positive. So our focus will be on the P&L and on our results, on our financial results. This is our main focus for the next 3 years. And we are preparing after this, we want to prepare and to be able to reshuffle the company to become greener and to do all the investments in order to become green. We're already looking to new airplanes in order to reduce and to take everything what is old from the fleet. In this way, we are preparing for the future. But still, the challenge is in front of us. But like I said, we are looking baby steps. First steps, we want to become zero, then we are looking how to be.
Exactly. Thank you. So, Turkish Airlines partner with TAROM. Samil, which challenges do you see as an airline manager in the European aviation, and do the challenges have any effect to your business?
Yes, thank you very much, Elektra, first of all, inviting me to this panel. I know the voice is not very clear. I try to be as clear as possible. Yes, we are not a EU, by the way, carrier. We are a non-EU AOC. And AnadoluJet is the low-cost brand of Turkish Airlines. So our bases are Sabiha Gökçen, Istanbul, Ankara, and some point-to-point routes to Antalya. But our main business, and half of the business, let me say, goes to Europe, to and from Europe to Turkey, and beyond Turkey to Middle East. So that means whatever happens here in Europe will have an effect, of course, on our business. Yes, we are affected. What I see, especially after the pandemic, we have two major problems, or one major problems, which has two results. This is the employee problem. We have a shortage of employees, as you know, labor manpower in Europe, and we were highly affected or strongly affected last year from this problem. As we all know, across
strikes.
Yes, not only strikes. Yes, we have strikes. This is the second point. But first of all, shortage of manpower. That means, especially in summer season 2022, as we all know, we had a lot of problems at the airports in Europe. And that caused a lot of problems for the airlines and also for us. We have tried to send our aircrafts on time to Europe, but all of them almost came delayed back, especially in the very high season, July to September. This was the situation. And this is a cost, you know, coming to the airline, cost somewhere in the supply chain, but we don't know to whom to forward this cost, and we're stuck on the cost. And this is a problem. Not only this, because we have also a hub and spoke model in Istanbul. We are, you know, transiting the people, the passengers, via Istanbul to other destinations, domestic and international. Mm-hmm. And that means if we have delays, our structure is, you know, disturbed in this case. We cannot run the business with delays. It's impossible. By point to point, you can still, you know, stand it, but with transit passengers, you cannot do that. So
it's a chain.
Pardon?
It's a chain.
Yeah, it's a chain. It's a chain, and if you have a problem in one part of the chain, then it is very problematic for us. This was the biggest problem in 2022, and I hope we will not have it this summer. I mean, this summer we are still concerned to have such problems because each year after the pandemic, we are increasing our capacity. Also from 2022 to 3, we increased the capacity. We have planned a lot. The only concern is will we have problems like this or not this year also? And the second problem, as you mentioned, are the strikes. This is another, I think, the outcome of the pandemic, because we have most probably inconsistencies between employee and employer expectations or conditions. So this is one. The second problem, as we all know, in upcoming Monday, we have a great strike again in Germany, for example. It's announced already. So we have 8 destinations in Germany. Just imagine we will cancel all the flights, and this will cause problem. I hope until the summer season, we can solve those problems in Europe, so that we have not problems, because we have really planned a lot. So we want to succeed in our business, and this is the only concern we have: manpower problem, shortage on the sides, and strike problems.
But you are optimistic for summer 2023?
Pardon me?
You are optimistic? You are optimistic
Of
for
course.
this summer?
I mean, if we were not optimistic, we wouldn't plan more than 2022. Of course we are optimistic. The business is there. The demand is there. I mean, I don't think that we have any more COVID conditions around Europe and in the Middle East, etc. Also in Turkey, not. So the time is now back to run our business as we were used to. So that's why we have planned a lot. We want to do a lot. Our only concern is if we have problems, as I said, in Europe like this, then it will affect our business, yes.
So let's talk about green prospect too. What do you do as an airline manager in terms of green prospect? And is there a concrete action do you take?
I mean, yes, green is important for everybody, and world climate change, we will all have our positive contribution to fight against this problem, of course. And there are many actions we can take, like SAF, using SAF. Turkish Airlines already started to use that. Electric vehicles at the airports, etc. But what I want to mention here especially is one action we can take, which is the new generation aircrafts, of course. I mean, this is one thing we can affect as decision makers.
How many do you have?
We have, let me say, 25% at the moment out of our fleet, new generation. That will be end of this year 1/3, and end of next year it will be half of the fleet. So when we reach next year at about 100 aircrafts, 52 of them will be new generation. This is the plan. We already ordered. We already renewing our fleet. Yeah, this is very important for us. And this is what we can do actually with an immediate effect, because we know that in our fleet we have 17 to 18% less fuel consumption on those aircrafts, and this is very important. Of course, it's very commercially also very important, but also to have less footprint on carbon emission. This is important. So we will renew our fleet. This is what we can do, but it will not be easy. First of all, we will not find as much aircraft as we wanted. This is one problem. The second problem will be that the prices will increase for those aircraft, because everybody wants those aircraft now. And when the prices goes up, then we as decision makers in the industry will have a trade-off. This is the price of the new aircraft and old aircraft, and the saving of the fuel. So the trade-off at the moment makes sense. When the fuel prices increase, maybe we take those aircraft for minimum 10 years. When the oil prices, fuel prices increases in the international market from 75 now to maybe 150, then it makes again sense. But if the fuel prices stays like that, so that means the break-even point of using those new aircrafts will be less. So we will have this trade-off. My wish is that the airlines somehow must be supported in this sense, incentivized. Our colleague from IATA said that the incentive maybe should go to the aircraft producers, but also the airlines maybe need in the future incentives, because we shouldn't stay with our decision in this trade-off alone, only looking at the fuel price, you know, less consumption, leasing price, etc. So there our options are limited. The airlines, I think, must be somehow supported in this topic.
Thank you, Mr. Karakas.
You're welcome.
So, Mr. Kelly, let's talk about sustainability. Sustainability is an increasingly strategically important topic across all sectors, including aviation. What do you see as the main opportunities for European aviation organizations that are focused on becoming more sustainable?
Thank you, Electra. I think first thing to say is that as a sustainability professional who's quite recent joiner to the aviation sector, I'm very pleased with the amount of times sustainability as a word has been mentioned today. I hadn't counted, but I suspect it might be over 100. So that's good. Clearly we need to turn words into actions, and that's really important. But let's just focus on the word for a second. Sustainability is a huge word. It has many different meanings, interpretations for different people, and it covers a multitude of sins. So a definition that I find quite helpful is that we need to deliver the needs of current generations without compromising the needs of future generations. That means maintaining a balance between economic prosperity, caring for the environment, and also social well-being. And that's a very, very tricky balance to make, but we must strive towards it. In terms of the opportunities, let's focus on the green opportunities. From an environmental perspective, there's a clear and obvious economic benefit, as you just outlined, from driving operational efficiency. As we can see, there are challenges with the commercial viability and the availability of sustainable aviation fuels. Hydrogen and electric flight are going to take quite some time to come into fruition, and we must plan for those, particularly both airlines and airports, in terms of what implications that might have. The other kind of option available to us is market-based measures and offsets, which frankly I don't believe in because they don't solve the problem. We need to reduce emissions in order to tackle climate change, not offset them. So that leaves us with efficiency. So this decade at least, we must focus on operational efficiency, both in the air and on the ground. And it's great to hear that there's been many examples of new next generation aircraft being used to drive efficiency. There are others as well. So it's simple things like engine washing. There's marginal gains, and there are marginal gains to be had everywhere across airlines and in airports, and we need to identify and capitalize on those opportunities. I think that the low-cost carriers are probably ahead of the curve because of their natural focus on efficiency. Our fellow previous panelist from Wizz Air, I think, gave a very effective outline of that approach. But I think that's something that is available to all airlines. And it's not just airlines, in the air. I think it's also, there is a role for airports to support airlines, for example, by using collaborative decision-making techniques to aid with departure sequencing, which can reduce, airplane traffic jams, which obviously has emissions, or it could be ground power units or preconditioned air. To support airlines to reduce their fuel consumption. And one of the challenges, I think, is trying to navigate the economics of that situation. So airports can make investments which support airlines to reduce their fuel consumption. So we need to get the balance of economics right so that there's a fair and equitable allocation of both cost and benefit across all parties. And that's why I think sustainability and particularly decarbonisation requires a level of collaboration across the chain of the ecosystem, and perhaps in new and different ways that we haven't perhaps experienced before. I think there's just one other point I want to make around, I guess they're the obvious kind of efficiency gains, but there's perhaps a less obvious one in terms of the economic benefits to do with the cost of offsets. So not all airlines or airports are offsetting. It is CORSIA has yet to to be mandated, of course, but the cost of offsets is rising, and it is set to continue to rise as climate change impacts get worse and demand increases and supply dwindles. One estimate, I think, suggests that the cost of carbon offsets could increase tenfold by 2030. Another estimate suggests a 50-fold increase by 2050. Now, I'm sure it'll be somewhere in between the two, and both could be wrong, but I think what is clear is that those costs are going to increase. So any organization, whether it's an airline or an airport, or frankly any organization that's offsetting, that the more you reduce your emissions today, the more you're avoiding those, at least some of those cost increases from offsets tomorrow. And EasyJet is a really interesting, second mention for EasyJet today, is a really good example, because they have changed their strategy. They've said, no, we're not going to offset anymore, and we're going to focus that funding on insetting. Essentially, let's look at our value chain, let's decarbonize our activity ourselves. So I think there are some of the opportunities that we can start to see from an economic perspective. And the very, very last point, I promise, is we've mentioned talent a lot, and the availability of talent being a particular challenge across the industry. As Gen Z, our children, grows up much more sustainability aware, much more environmentally aware, they're going to choose to work in businesses and in sectors that they feel are aligned with their own personal belief systems. And the aviation sector has a challenge in that respect. So the organizations that are able to demonstrate the progress that they're making without greenwashing are much more likely to attract and retain talent, which is clearly a bit of an issue today, and that's going to probably get worse unless we start to focus on that.
Do you see any links between sustainability and resilience?
Yes, I do. I think they're quite closely linked, and I think it's interesting that to date, we've focused mostly from a sustainability perspective on environment, but mostly on decarbonisation and not on adaptation. Because I think that is, I'm sad to say, that climate risks are much more likely to grow and become increasingly intense and more widely felt than they are at the moment. And I think anybody who was in Europe last summer, either on a personal level or on a business perspective, will have started to experience the very early signs of what climate change is likely to do. If anybody is interested in quite lengthy scientific documents, but this one's a short one, the IPCC report came out this year, and it was a really damning reflection on the lack of progress that, as a planet, we are making to tackle climate change. So just to drill into some of the risks that are likely to cause further levels of disruption from a climate perspective, and I think this is where climate resilience and operational resilience are kind of two ends of the same spectrum. The International Civil Aviation Organization introduced quite a helpful report, I think, to outline the main climate risks on airports, aircraft operators, and air navigation service providers. And I do recommend, if anybody hasn't come across it, have a look. It's quite long, but it's worth the read, because these are the things that are going to be affecting your businesses increasingly over the coming years. But just to give you a very quick summary, so extreme temperatures, changing precipitation, increased intensity of storms, and sea level rises. And just to pick on the last one, you might say sea level rise. My airport's miles away from the sea. I don't need to worry about that. It's not so simple. Sea level rise can cause an increase in river levels quite far inland, particularly with major arterial rivers. And obviously the closure of one airport due to flooding, either temporary or even permanent, causes a network domino effect of decreasing capacity across the entire network, and all of those flights, even on a temporary basis, need to be rerouted somewhere. And I think there's also compound effects. So if our flight scheduling, you may experience this, your flight scheduling may be focused around the temperature during the day. So you may have certain flights which are scheduled to leave at nighttime because to manage temperature during the day. Well, if your destination actually is suffering temperature increases beyond the extreme, we're going to have to look at the kind of how does the whole scheduling system work, and that's going to require a bit more effort and work. So there is a piece of, we were talking about regulation earlier on, there is a piece of regulation which is being introduced in the European Union called the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, CSRD, and that is going to affect large and small businesses operating in Europe and based in Europe from 2024. Large businesses from next year and 2025, small businesses from 2026. And that legislation is going to require all companies to report on the impact of their operations on people and planet, but also the impact of sustainability issues, such as, but not limited to, climate change on their business. And that means organizations are going to have to get to grips with what are the climate risks that my business is subjected to, and what's my climate resilience strategy in response to that. And all of those risks that I outlined are location specific and will cause different types of disruption across the network. I've given you a few examples, but there will be many. So I think there's a big link between sustainability and resilience, and I think the more sustainable we can become, and the more we can decarbonize, the more we can prevent the worst impacts of climate change, the less fundamentally resilient we need. We need to avoid being in kind of permanent crisis mode all the time, which is what the risk is with all of these different impacts.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Thank you for this interesting discussion. Ioanna, do we have any questions?
Okay, so we have one question, yes, for the CEO of TAROM. Will TAROM operate international flights from other Romanian airports other than Bucharest?
In the next 2 years, this is not in our plan. We are looking to any demand that is coming from these categories, and if this demand will be proven to be profitable for TAROM, better than what we have today in Bucharest, yes, we will do it.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions? Are there any other questions? Maybe? No, I think we are. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the very interesting discussion. Thank you. Perfectly on time. Okay. Thank you very much. So, and we are perfectly on time. Okay, so now we are ready for our CEO talks. The topic is Shaping the Future. I'm very glad to invite on stage Mr. Michael Kerkloch. He's the supervisory board member in Lufthansa, but also a president and CEO of Munich Airport from September 2002 up to December 2019. And I have to say that under your visionary leadership, Michael, Munich Airport became one of the most successful airports in Europe. No, this is true, this is true, this is true. So please have your seat, and I will also invite the rest of the panel members. So they are all airport CEOs in alphabetical order. Mrs. Bettina Ganghofer, CEO, Salzburg International Airport. And I have instructions from our production company. So Bettina, you have to be just, yes, exactly. In front, I have clear instructions from the production company, so, okay. Okay, no, exactly, because this was the case. So the second, Jesus Caballero Pinto, CEO, Sofia Airport. Thank you. Mr. Ivo Tuvik, Chairman of the Management Board in Tallinn Airport. And last but definitely not least, Mr. Nazareno Ventola, CEO, Bologna Guglielmo Marconi Airport. And I leave you to your very interesting discussion.
Well, I hope everybody's still awake or waiting for the lunch. Well, I think we have airport CEOs here from regional airports in Europe, bigger regional airports and smaller regional airports. And Cluj is in the middle in between, huh? A little bit. It's probably like Tallinn, as far as passenger numbers are concerned. So interestingly, in the preparation for this talk, I was looking whether these airports have claims, or whether they are just named by famous people, like in Bologna. Yeah, they have the inventor of the telegraph in their name, a name claim. Salzburg, of course, famous as Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart Airport, yeah? And probably the jingles you play at the airport are only Mozart, yeah? To enhance passenger spending. The most interesting claim I found was with Tallinn Airport, because they claim themselves being the coziest airport in the world. I like that very much. They have also very, very strong convictions, because they say to their traveling public, or to whoever is addressed to, go green or go home. That's, in the end, a very good statement. And of course, for Sofia just has the Sofia Connect claim, yeah? But are you named after a famous Bulgarian politician or so? No, huh? So he doesn't have a claim yet, so we have to look for his claim after this discussion. Well, let's go into details. Shaping the future. I was asking our panelists to look on what happens in the short term, that means 2023, medium term, 25, something like that, 26, and of course long term, what would be the challenges and also the opportunities of these airports. Maybe, Nazareno, maybe you can start on your challenges and opportunities of your airport, which is performing quite well already this year.
Yeah, thanks, Michael, and good morning, everybody. Thanks for inviting us here, and congrats for Cluj Airport, David, and all his staff for organizing this wonderful event. I think you're really reaching high standards, so thanks for that. Bologna Airport, yeah, we're named after Guglielmo Marconi, which I think everyone knows, and it's kind of burden to to follow his legacy, because of course, but we are lucky to be in a very dynamic and active catchment area, which is actually probably one of the best in terms of logistics of Italy. We are in a wealthy area of the country. We are very well connected with the high-speed rail network and the motorway network. And so this helped us to reach up to 9.5 million passengers in 2019 before COVID. Last year, 22, we almost were 90% of this maximum level achieved in 2019. The challenges for us, at least, for the next years are actually focused on developing our infrastructures, because the recovery came much faster than we expected, as we all know. And doing that into a very crowded environment. So we will have to expand and refurbish our terminal, which is not that big as we would like to have it, in a time where recovery is coming fast, which is a good thing, of course. And we hope, and we're, of course, as a system, as Bologna Airport 2, we're much more prepared than we were last summer, when all of us were caught by surprise by the fast recovery that it was. But anyway, it will be challenging, but it's a good challenge to have.
Bettina, what about your airport? Your challenge is 2023, and your opportunities, of course. 2023, your challenges and opportunities, if you have any. Challenges 2023 and opportunities. Sorry.
Okay. I would like to reinforce the appreciation of this organized event, and thank you to Cluj Airport and Cluj City. First, challenges. Challenges in this year is very strongly getting always the right number of qualified and cordial staff to support the airport. And opportunities are available because we created them in the past. We have a full employed market and the whole catchment. But we did well during the crisis to keep as many people as possible. We had natural fluctuation, that's a matter of fact, but we get most of them back. But for certain professions like engineers and IT guys and people who know how to repair things, but we're working on it, and if we don't get in the market, we have to make them.
Just a question back to Nazareno. You have staff problems as well, getting staff? Or is that different in Italy?
It's an issue. It's an issue because our market, our labor market in northern Italy, in Bologna area too, is quite tight. The unemployment rate is below 4%. So this year we were preparing in advance. So personally, as the airport management company, we should be okay, but we are very worried about the handlers, the handling companies, because we have 3 handling companies operating at the airport, which none of them is controlled by us, so they're independent, and they're having a lot of issues because of the labor situation.
Same thing in Tallinn, or is that a happy country as far as labor is concerned?
Is it working? Okay. Yeah, of course, we have similar challenges.
Even
like
in
other countries with labor, but perhaps maybe not that bad. I think we are, as you said, our aim is to be the coziest airport in the world, and I think we have managed that also quite well. So we are also actually one of the most popular employer in Tallinn region. So I would say that we have challenge, but maybe not that big as some for others.
And what about Sophia? As far as the labor situation is concerned, I mean, we talked yesterday on the phone, and you said there is no unemployment in Bulgaria. Is that right?
Yeah, it is right. Well,
I was really surprised. No unemployment in Bulgaria.
It's almost zero, the unemployment in Bulgaria. Almost, it's 3%, it's almost zero. So this is impacting, obviously, our operation because the labor market is super hot. I mean, people are leaving the airport for 50 euros. If they are much better paid in other companies. So this is a threat for this. It's a big threat for this summer. But in terms of, and what we are doing is, what all the airport are trying to do is to train massive training, especially in security, X-ray operator, ground handler, because the summer for Sofia is booming. So we are expecting to have more traffic than 2019, according to the slot coordination, what we have in our slot system. And yeah, so this is I think is listening this morning, it's one of the biggest major threats in the aviation industry, not only for the airports, because also the airlines, all of them, because we have in a daily contact with them. They have the cabin crew, now that all the airlines this year they are having even more aircraft available in the market than 2019, and this is putting pressure in the market for the cabin crew. But also in the airports, especially in Bulgaria, for this unemployment that is almost zero.
When we look at market developments now for the next 2 or 3 years, I mean, we all left COVID levels now, yeah, and probably everybody of you had to postpone investment plans, probably also, yeah, because your owner said, we can't finance that, at least not with the 2 years, 20 and 21, at least. So everybody had cut back their capex plans. What about your capital expenditure the next 3 years? What are you investing in? Is it only in old school terminals and runways, or you also have a substantial part of your investment in future technologies, maybe digital, or also in your green engagement? maybe you start and, you know.
Well, in the case of Sofia, it's a unique project because we took over in 2021 the airport from the state. We start the concession in 21. So we have the funding, the financing ready to invest. So until 2025, we will invest more than 80 million euros in full renovation of the Terminal 2. Because the situation in Sofia is we have 2 terminals. One of the terminals is from 1937. It's a very, very old terminal, so the idea is to close as soon as possible. Then we are going to do a massive renovation of the Terminal 2, because despite that it was built in 2006, but it was designed previous 2001, previous the terrorist attack, the 11th terrorist attack. So the design was a very, very old style. So we are going to do, starting this year until the end of 25, a massive renovation of the Terminal 2. But what is the unique situation of Sofia is that there is no, the airport has been running the operation manually, but there is no, I mean, it was a surprise for me, because when I arrived summer 21, I didn't, so they were managing the airport completely manually. So what we are doing is completely from the scratch, from the foundation. We are this year implementing new airport management system, new ERP, and so on.
Same with you, Bettina, in Salzburg. CapEx revived.
Actually, the next 2 or 3 years are not the exciting ones. I have an investment plan over the next 10 years. I want to spend 220 million euro at nowadays prices. About half of it is I have to create a complete new terminal because my old one is just falling in itself. It's not working anymore. Rest is spread out 3D and sustainability and keeping the infrastructure running. So we have the normal ones and we have the big topics, and we pushed our plans, but we can't work faster because the resources out in the market are not as quickly available as we would like to spend the money. And we're working on this, and it will stay exciting.
I know it's the same in Bologna as well, yeah? You
yes, as you
urgently need to expand.
We need to start fast, as I was saying before. Also, we'll have works during the summer because we, of course, like many of us, had to rephase our capex plan. We all know we burned cash for more than 1 year during the COVID time, and we are also a listed company, so we have private and public investors. So we really had to review everything. Now we're starting again. Our plan for the next 5 years is on average around 40 million euros per year over the next 5 years. So it will be quite challenging, but it's needed. The demand luckily is there, and considering the situation, the overall situation. So we just have to satisfy that demand. So both from an infrastructure point of view, and of course, and also from a technological and a sustainability point of view, which is part of our strategy at the moment.
And Thibaut, same with you. You get less cozy or you stay cozy?
Yes, of course, we need to keep investing to our terminal as well. But personally, I think that the problem what we have in airport is that our costs are increasing faster than our revenues. And to increase our revenues from our existing business is also limited. We cannot charge like too much from airlines or cannot charge too much from our partners who are in terminal. So I think it's really crucial that we create new revenue streams. And if I look now Tallinn Airport, then majority of investment what we are now planning are actually for non-aviation business, and even partly not related to aviation at all. And this is what we are planning is real estate development, where at the moment we have like altogether 55,000 square meter space what we are renting out, but we can increase it within the next 15 years to 500,000. And we have invested already about 30 million to infrastructure, and we continue that. And we believe that really to be in long run sustainable and resilience to different crises, then it's important that you have non-aviation related businesses as well.
Well, I know you're a fan of real estate. You say the real estate is, the only real estate is the real estate. And you have large plans. I mean, all of this sounds like really old school, before 2019, yeah? So what do we have to do is invest and create a capacity, which obviously we do expect growth everywhere. And I do recall the discussions that we had in 2020, where there was a big skepticism of whether our industry will become great again. But this is all forgotten now. I think we're all in this old role. How can we cope with the growth? As far as this is concerned, and you look at your own airport perspective, and we have small airports here and medium-sized, and with a really big footprint also in the region, an important one. For example, when you look at Bologna, are you skeptical about what we will have as far as the growth is concerned? Because in the end, prices will, ticket prices will increase, obviously, not only because of the higher production costs, but also because of all the surcharges we will get because of becoming green and things like that. Do you see a price elasticity in your markets? Or do you just say, well, in the end, we will grow like with the same growth rates than before? I mean, there may be obstacles, like airlines cannot grow so quickly because they don't have the staff and things like that. But obviously, growth is something you expect. No?
No. Well, at least in Salzburg, I think it's different. I want to come back to what we had in 2018-19. So we are roughly 2 million boutique hotel in the city of Salzburg at the frontier to Germany, but I think we are living in a saturated market. My investment is not to expand, it's just renewal and to comply with all those new features and regulations which are handed out on a more or less daily basis from governments, and I include Brussels in this. I think we should grow in quality and performance. We really have to treat everyone like a most treasured guest, and that will be the focus. High quality connectivity, combining more with the mobility on the land side, to get a more and better and easier flow for the passengers coming to Wolfgang Amadeus Airport or flying out of Salzburg.
Same thing. You believe in your growth in your region? I mean, you have big competition, at least within Italy, with train. Yeah.
We have seen actually booking booming over the last months. I think, as we say in Italian, they're booking their holidays as there is no tomorrow. I mean, people are really wanting. I think probably the COVID had also gave us the idea that something may happen that we have to stay at home for some time. So until we're free to fly and we're free to move, let's do it. That's the feeling that we have, at least in our country at the moment. So even with the double ticket, double
but
prices.
I'm talking about the next 3 years.
I think we will continue as long as the rules are like that. So as long as nothing happens in terms of this disruptive phenomenon, I think that the growth will continue. And I think I am lucky also, we are lucky because the catchment area is really dynamic. So from my point of view, the demand side is not my first issue. My first issue is to deliver capacity in order to help the demand side to accommodate.
Same in Tallinn?
Yes, I think also the passenger numbers still continue to grow, despite that the airfares are more expensive nowadays than they were. Because, you know, price is a relative issue, so all the prices are increasing, and I think it doesn't have really like a long-term effect. Perhaps maybe some in short term, but not in long term. So we expect that the passenger number will grow. The more issue is what we see that our catchment area is quite limited, as we are in two sides. We are geographically facing the sea, and on another side Russia. So our catchment area is limited. So we think that in let's say in next 5 years we are also on this kind of saturated market already. So there is this gap to actually increase the passenger numbers.
May I ask you one maybe intimate question? Have you created a special Russian market now the last year?
Russian market?
A Russian market,
no,
or market for Russians?
No,
not via Tallinn.
No, we had flights between Moscow, of course.
But the people come from Russia to your airport?
No, they have never come, actually. Or actually, to be honest, when the sanctions started, then in one moment when the Russian airspace was closed, then we see some travelers from St. Petersburg and coming to Tallinn, but
that was not big.
It was not big, and it was only quite short time of period.
Mm-hmm. What about you? Next 3 years?
Well, I was more pessimistic last year because looking in what happened last year before Christmas with all this inflection around us and so on. But then, at the beginning of this year, I changed my mind because especially in Romania and Bulgaria, they have a very big opportunity when both countries enter in Schengen, because the key was what Joseph Varadi mentioned this morning is that is in Eastern Europe, the ground transportation in terms of rail, the network in the ground is not very well developed, but there is a big gap to catch up in Eastern Europe. And despite of, so this means that there will be, both countries will be very resilient and very elastic, because exactly what you mentioned is we have the perfect storm. We have the energy, the workforce, and on top of it, all these the regulation and goal for the decarbonization. This is impacting directly our cash, because we need to address all this situation. And but despite of this, what is going on is you see the booking and the price and the passenger, and what we are analyzing continually the market, and we see a big growth. I mean, even in 5 years, big growth like we saw this morning in Romania is happening also in Bulgaria. So, and the challenge here is that we need to catch up in terms of capacity. So what we are, for example, in our case, what we are doing is launching this year at the new Terminal 3, and to catch up with the capacity before 2030, because we are expected to double the traffic in 7 years.
Let's change the perspective. I don't know, how much time do we have still? One more? Or I have many. We still have 20 minutes.
We still have 20 minutes.
Okay.
We have 2 questions that are addressed to all the participants, so probably they will take some time as well. So you can schedule accordingly.
Yeah, I would like to change the perspective, looking at the relationship between airports and airlines. Because during COVID, at least my impression was that the industry or the industry players, airports and airlines, came closer together, because of course they had to solve a common problem. But now with the new or old business dynamics being on again, the role play between airlines and airports, from your personal view and your own experience, does it change again, or is the partnership approach still there? Your home carrier is Air Baltic.
Yes, I think in the end it's still there, that we need to collaborate and be partners, and not only airlines and airports, but also other players in the industry. I think in the end we need to collaborate more, because I believe that the short-term efficiency comes from that. In the same time, when you are collaborating with someone, then you always need to think on also this, that if one day this collaboration ends, what happens then? So So I think that you have this kind of diversified airline portfolio for airport is really crucial actually for resilience perspective, that not to depend on one airline too much. But at the same time, I know that it's not that easy always. So sometimes you need to depend on also on one airline. But in general speaking, I think the partnership is still there, and we need to work how to increase the cooperation between us.
I mean, we had Josef Varadi here, yeah, maybe one of your biggest partners. How would you describe that relationship in terms of your own risk management in the end?
I mean, airlines at the end, they have the biggest risk because the airport we have a little bit more safer position in terms of risk. We are less exposed to risk.
But if they say we leave because you're too expensive?
No, in case of in the industry, if you look like the supply chain, I mean, what they are having, they are driving the passengers. So at the end of the day, they are having the risk. So, but despite of this, and what is changing is that the key was what Joseph was mentioned. The key is that airports, I mean, we need to be competitive to attract them, and they have the power in the negotiation to bring the passenger to the airport or to the competitive airport. So at the end, it's a matter of in a very efficient way your operation to keep your charges low in order to attract them, especially the low-cost carrier, because the low-cost carrier are the winner after the crisis, and they have the power to bring huge volume to your airport if you are competitive. And then it's a matter of managing together with the region, with the destination, to promote your destination. This combination is what is giving you the power when you are in front of the airline to negotiate with them. In the case of Wizz Air, in Sofia, it's a big player. So
I mean, your biggest carrier is Ryanair,
yes,
in Bologna.
Well,
Italy.
I think, yeah, Ryanair actually is the first carrier in Italy, is the national carrier unofficially at the moment. Well, I think there's been a aviation sector solidarity during the COVID times, but to be honest, after COVID emergency went down, I don't see the dynamics are much different than from the past, in the sense that they look for, of course, the lowest charges possible, not only Ryanair, to be honest, all airlines with different approaches, of course. And the fact that they can double ticket prices according to the demand, and we have this regulation that doesn't allow us to recover costs, for them it's not an issue. They don't care. We all know that. So I think that the dialogue is, of course, continuous, but the distances are as the same and sometimes even longer distances than before COVID.
Any issues with airlines in Salzburg?
We have two kinds of business. We have the winter high season. Everyone wants to come to Salzburg because the alternatives are Innsbruck, Grenoble, Geneva, wherever people can go skiing. And then we have the rest of the year performance. So winter is still easy. The rest of the year, where people fly out of Salzburg or come to Salzburg, it's more tricky. Once the airline is at the airport, which is the hardest part, you have to fully engage into the cooperational part, which also is very difficult because each and every airline does something a little bit different. And if you have not, and I do everything, we are also the ground handling service provider, it really stretches the people to know the business of each airline by heart, from check-in to boarding to whatever they want to have differently. And I think this multitude of different service levels in the end is not something the customer really notices anymore, especially if the airport is doing it on behalf of the airlines.
Let's change perspective again, totally. And I do refer to, of course, the elephant in the room, the green agenda. And I would just like to know whether now, with your new business plans, perspectives, also CapEx programs, is there is there a trade-off now between, classic CapEx programs versus your green investments? Or did you stick to your the goals you agreed upon either with ACI, carbon accreditation scheme, or within your national goals or Fit for 55 or whatever? Was there a trade-off, or did you just stick to the plan, to your green plan that you obviously all had developed? I think so. You did, I know. Yes. Well, Bettina, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
because let's add, because in the end, the public perception now is also with all the other political discussions that you have now on the geopolitical side, that the climate issue seems to get some problems in realizing it.
The problem
realizing the goals that you have set for 2025 or 2030 or whatever your game is, your target is.
At Salzburg Airport, we have very exact targets in regard to sustainability, which have remained the same pre-COVID or after COVID. It doesn't matter. We want to be in 2040 to be CO2 net neutral, so that's it. And we always get back to our owners, and they support this. And the investment program is aligned to this, together with all my traditional keeping the infrastructure and having at least a workable terminal. It hasn't changed in this regard.
Okay.
What I hope for is there are still black holes, because I don't know what kind of technology I will have to invest in, because it has not been invented yet. So I'm hoping for all those people getting into research to find some solutions to my questions, and at the moment it looks good.
Ivo?
Yes, I personally think that this becoming the CO2 neutral by 2030, it's really like a license to operate or license to grow, definitely. If you are not 2030 CO2 neutral, then you are not able to grow anymore. And I think it because of two things. First of all, your customers are not coming to your airport, or even to any other businesses. You are losing just your customers, and or another thing is that you will have some kind of taxes, so your cost base is actually increasing, which means that you are out of business. So this is our belief, and perhaps the COVID didn't have too much effect, but rather this Ukraine war, because I think the Ukraine war showed that we actually need to accelerate going to green. And for example, in Tallinn, we have 80% of our CO2 comes from electricity. And we have now built in Tallinn about 6.5 megawatts solar parks already. And this year we will produce about 35 to 40% of electricity from our own solar parks. And now thinking that is this investment good or not, actually at the moment it has been better investment from money perspective than investment into different hangars because of the electricity prices. We have actually saved quite much cost because of that. So at the moment the return of investment is really good. So what we believe is that the faster we go to the, let's say, to the greener, the better it is, and it's better for our business.
Anzarino?
Yes, well, in our case, we took a commitment to become net zero by 2030 before COVID, so we're clearly on that path, but, and we will invest for that. But let me add one thing more, which I think is big. This is all about, airports is all about scope 1 and scope 2, okay? But we know it's not enough. We need scope 3, we need the whole ecosystem to work to the same direction. And ACI Europe just published a few days ago a report called The Price of Net Zero. And think of that number. To achieve net zero target as a system, as an ecosystem, by 2050, we need 820 billion euros expended in capex and everything, you know, fleet renewal, new technologies and so on. So who pays for that? 820 billion euros. So we need to have a system that finances this. Airports can do their part, airlines must do their part, but the regulation also must follow. When you think that it was very difficult to include in the European taxonomy the SAF, and it was introduced just at the last moment, but with difficulty. So the first idea, and there are NGOs and institutions that still are against this solution, I think we have a problem. I think we have because we cannot do by ourselves. I mean, we need the green finance and the system to follow. Otherwise, that target is not achievable.
In Sofia, you trade off between green issues and capex programs. You do that or not?
I mean, this is in our DNA. I mean, because from
you do both.
So, but the key is what Nazarena was talking about. Is it's easy to reach by 2030. Technically, it's feasible. It's doable to reach carbon neutral in an airport by 2030. Yeah. The technology is available. You have the solar panel, you have geothermal, you have electrification of the vehicle, but they need to be financially sustainable as well. So this is the challenge.
Because I mean, I do share your skepticism, but I mean, targets are easily set. You can say everything in your targets, but I just want to ask you about your personal opinion, whether the targets that we have set within the European Union, and of course the aviation industry will make its contribution. Do you still think that they are realistic?
Well, in terms of scope 1 and 2, is realistic.
As far as airports are concerned, but for the whole aviation industry?
No. I think we have to work hard. And I think that targets sometimes can be aspirational, and it's good to
have them, yeah.
to have them there. But then you have to be consequential with that. I'm afraid that between the target and the actions that need to be made, in Brussels, they're not very much aware. I agree a lot with what has been said by Mr. Marinescu before, that you have to have a balanced approach. Otherwise, you set a target and you don't have the means to reach that target.
You think the target?
Yeah, I agree. That I think that our goals, these goals are probably not achievable, but at the same time, you need to have a goal high enough to where to move. But what concerns now the scope 1 and scope 2, I think these are clearly achievable. Now more complicated is with aviation as a general, and most probably the biggest issue is SAF, sustainable aviation fuel. Where the hell we get all the SAF what is needed? That's the question.
The targets for producing the SAF in these amounts that we need are also unrealistic, I would say. Yeah, whatever.
I'm in between. I'm very hopeful, but it's again on the innovation part, and SAF alone is not making the aviation as neutral as we would like to have it. So there have to come up other methods, that's clear. And I've talked to some green ministers, and they have acknowledged that flying is not going away, and they have to focus on this if they really want to have this target fulfilled in 2050. So I'm a little bit hopeful too. At the moment, the setup, it's probably not working, so there has to be an additional effort to go this many last miles.
Okay, question from the audience.
Questions from the audience? There are 3 questions here, and we need a microphone for Mr. Garvens, but I will start with the first question while the microphone goes there. Given prospects of future air travel growth, what is the greatest challenge for airports? Developing infrastructure or acquiring the appropriate mix of carriers?
Infrastructure versus carriers, which is the more challenging. Who wants to respond to that?
Yes,
the question is about future air travel growth. And given prospects of future air travel growth, what is the greatest challenge for airports? Developing infrastructure or acquiring the appropriate mix of carriers, of airlines?
You start? Then
Infrastructure.
Infrastructure.
Well, it's not only infrastructure, it's also going beyond the technology, because, I mean, what we are facing now during last summer, this summer, is we need to go ahead with to be autonomous in the ground handling, security. So this will be a game changer, because as we are all of us struggling with the cash flow, so we need to not only cope with the capacity and the CapEx, but also with the technology, a part of the carrier.
Ivo, your opinion? Infrastructure, or carrier, or something else?
Probably the infrastructure, as I see. And the question is that how you secure that your financial performance is so good that you have money to make these investments. I think that this is the biggest issue. And this means that your revenues need to grow faster than your cost. Then you can keep up this what is needed for the infrastructure investments.
I think it's the airline mix, definitely.
Okay.
Because I can steer my investments into infrastructure by myself, but I have a different thing in shaping my customer mix.
Yeah. So, but if it's infrastructure, then most you really have the old problems also publicly. Let's say, how to get them, yeah, how to get them approved.
Second question, airports strive to get more digitalized these days, but how important remains the human factor in aviation? So that's a good one.
Who wants to respond to that? Importance of human factor versus digitalization.
Human factor is still the most important issue from my point of view. Just as simple as that.
I completely agree. Digitization is maybe helping to get rid of some of the jobs you don't find hands for, but it is and will be always human factors.
You agree?
Yeah, I agree. And people are the ones who are making this digitalization. So the first, they need to have people, then you have digitalization. So.
Yeah, because there are key technologies that are coming soon to the airport that will change completely the workforce in airports.
Thank you. There is one.
Yes, I have got a question to Nazareno, and I would like to emphasize a bit more on airport-airline relations, because airline consolidation in Europe is on its way, and you just told us that now Ryanair has reached a market share at your airport of 50%, and that also means that the bargaining power out of an airline perspective is further increasing. And on the other hand, this anticipated growth requires further investments, and also, and we heard this from Olivier this morning, with regard to reducing greenhouse gases. And in the very end, as vertical integration of such low-cost carriers is very low, so it's very easy for them to shift fleet capacity from one airport to the other. This could put you, even if you have to go ahead with investments, which then causes fixed step costs, could left you financially with a quite uncomfortable, viable proposition. Yeah. So in the very end, a loss-making situation could pop up. So how are you going to cope with that?
That's the key question. Thank you, Michael, for the next 5-10 years. Thanks for the question. Of course, I mean, on one hand, we have the largest part of our traffic is low cost, and then we have to develop the infrastructure. So we have to be careful in the choices we make. Of course, we have to develop infrastructure which are cost efficient as much as we can. We cannot build cathedrals in the desert, like they say. On the other hand, we know that we have a customer, at least in our catchment area, which I think in many catchment areas, which is a demanding one. So they don't want a low-cost infrastructure. They want a smart airport. They want a nice airport. They want a clean airport. So this is a conundrum that we have to manage, and it's a nice part of our job, I think. I think that the relationship between my airport and in general airport like Bologna and the airlines, low cost especially, is something that needs to evolve with the fact that if there is a catchment area to be served and a customer to be served, it's in both interests that this customer is happy and he comes to the airport and with high yields for the airline. And a high yield for the airline can be also an advantage for the airport in terms of economical conditions that are going to be set between the airport and the airline.
One last question.
Thank you. And there is one more. I will read it as I see it. What are operations bottleneck to increase efficiency? Operations bottleneck, and I think the main message here. Yeah, exactly. And what are the obstacles in order to increase efficiency? I think this is what the person that posed the question means.
Operation bottlenecks. I think you are an expert on that one.
Well, in terms of operation, there are basically three bottlenecks in an airport. One is all of us are struggling with the security checkpoint with all this regulation, but the new technology, especially the artificial intelligence applied to the X-ray machines, will change completely the workforce in this area. Then is the ground handling. In the ground handling, we are going through autonomous vehicles to step by step replace the workflows. This will give us an additional efficiency to the airport. And then there is the technology in terms of digitalization, because applying to this area, this technology is evolving super fast, and you will see in the airport industry how it will impact in terms of efficiency.
Thank you very much.
I think that's it.
Thank you.
Please give a big hand to this fantastic panel. And
thank you very much. And I think just before lunch, we have Marcel separating us because he has an announcement to make. Okay, so Marcel.
Exactly. Dear guests, just an announcement concerning the time after the conference. There is an evening reception for those who are not aware or haven't read all their emails or just forgot it. It's starting at 2000 in a place called Pizza Trattoria Dottore, which is in the north of the city, right, Sid? Sorin. You can walk there, 40 minutes walk. I did it with Sorin. I can only recommend you see Old Cluj, yeah? Or if you don't want to walk 40 minutes, you look so shocked, yeah? Look at her, yeah? There's a shuttle at 19:30 at the hotel taking you directly to Pizzeria Dottore. Official start over there is 2000, and yeah, see you there after the conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good. Okay, perfect.
happy dreamer.